Welcome to Can I Get a Retake, where education meets innovation. Every month, we host conversations with the thinkers, teachers, and researchers shaping the world around us. We hope you tune in, get inspired, and join the conversation.
Today, Michelle and I are sitting down with Keith Kropp, the Assistant Vice President of Product Acquisitions and Strategic Development at Great River Learning. We're here to talk about some of the history of the company and to share some exciting news.
Can you tell us about your journey to Kendall Hunt and then to GRL?
My journey with GRL started really in 2001. I was still working with our sister company, Kendall Hunt, and I had just transferred from our office in Chicago to the home office here in Iowa. And I was talking to the head of the higher ed division. His name was Tom Gantz at the time, and he brought me in his office and said, "We're starting this new thing, and it has to do with online, and I think this might be a good fit for you." And he pulled out this CD-ROM, and it had the word webcom on it, which is the name of the platform. And so he showed me this archaic PowerPoint presentation and asked if I had interest in pursuing it, and I did. And so I gave up the territory that I was in, which was covering Illinois and Indiana. And so I became the first kind of full-time person to help our acquisitions team find and bring in new business. And then I was I guess you could say, the first instructional designer, because I would sit down with college educators, and we would, over the course of that time, it would be like a full day. We'd sit down and map out what it is that they wanted to do and what we could do, and we would compile that into like an architectural framework, like a recipe list of here's what I want to have in each of the chapters. And then I would take that back, and we would work with our internal team to build it out. And so that's where that started. So that started in 2001-ish. And then between 2001 and 2005, I was traveling to work with different people in different parts of the country. And then I remember I was in an airport with Tom Gantz, who was the head of the higher ed division, and he got a phone call. I think it was a flip phone back then, and told me that a decision was made to spin us off into a separate company. And so then we had to go through the process of figuring out, what are we going to call this company? And then that was an interesting process in itself. But so that started. Originally, we were a digital publishing program in 2001, and then that turned into a official separate company in 2005.
So that makes the 20th anniversary of GRL this year, correct?
That's true. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, 20 years.
Yeah, I kind of want to get my hands on the CD-ROM. I don't know if I have the tech to play it, but I would so love to see what archaic webcom looks like.
Yeah, it was something. And webcom was an acronym, so every once in a while I'll ask people if for trivia purposes if they know what webcom stands for. Do you know what it means?
I do not.
Do you?
At one point I might have.
Yeah, right. So it was web, capital W-E-B, and then capital C, capital O, capital M. And the com was for course online material.
There you go. Talking about naming the company Great River Learning, I don't think I know that story either. How did we come up with the name Great River Learning?
We were sitting, there were probably, 5 or 6 of us. Chad was there, and there were a bunch of us around the table trying to figure out names. And we actually worked with a local copywriter, and it was a team of 2 women, and they were helping us come up with ideas. And we came up with a lot of ideas, and one that we all liked was actually I think it was Da Vinci. We were thinking about all the kind of the cool images and associating the images and the importance and I'm trying to think of the word, just all the words associated with Da Vinci we liked. And then I think Chad shared it with a couple of people, and it bombed.
Oh,
and we thought of okay. I remember him. I think he shared it with Susan Kern, and there was silence. It's like, okay, that's not a good sign. So then we kind of went back to the drawing board and Sherry Glue, who was with us at the time, said that I remember she was saying how, well, I drive home back on a road called Great River Road. And what do you guys think of Great River? We all thought it was intriguing and kind of slept on it. And then that led us to landing on Great River. At the time, it was Great River Technologies. Mm-hmm. And that's where the name Great River came from.
Did not know that story either.
Mm-hmm. I'm full of them.
Cool. Well, I'm never going to drive that road again without thinking about it.
That's what
as often as I'm on it.
I don't think I knew that we were operating internally with Kendall Hunt for that long. Mm-hmm. So about 3 to 4 years, it was a part of Kendall Hunt.
My understanding was that this started back closer to 2000 when we were starting to get more requests for websites to accompany books. And at the time, there was a realization that, well, one, we don't really do that. And two, how much business are we going to lose from people saying, well, if you can't do it, then we want to find somebody who can. So on top of that, well, how much business how much additional, business would it make sense for us to be able to get if we had these capabilities? So the company at the time decided to experiment and build from scratch a project. And I think the first project that was developed was an English project out of UNLV. And then my understanding is what came out of that was, well, one, it could be done, but it was very labor intensive to create a one-off. And so there was a realization that it would probably make more sense to have a platform that you can build as many of the projects as you want without reinventing the wheel. And then that's when Woodward Internet Solutions, which is a local company in Dubuque, was hired. And famous person in GRL history, Dale Manaman, Michelle's father, helped program the first system that we used. And so that was 2001, if I remember right. And then we started working off of that and making enhancements from there.
Right. Webcom eventually became Webcom 2, which became GRL Content today.
Right.
But in the years you've been with Great River Learning, can you tell us a little bit about how the trends around digital ed tech has changed?
Yeah. I kind of laughed thinking back where it all started, because when I first went out and was representing the digital publishing world in higher education, I got a lot of pushback. You want my students to use a computer? They don't have computers. There's barely computer labs on campus, and it's hard to get a time slot to be able to use a computer. And then, well, they don't all have internet access. How am I supposed to have my students, use this for homework when most of them don't even have a phone or internet access at home or a computer? And so looking back, I mean, I can't even imagine what that's like for this generation of students, but it really started in a place where there was, it was slow movement. Everything was still focused on books. The digital content was more of a complement as opposed to a focus, where almost every one of the products we had were physical books with some online support material, ancillary material, and then watching it over 20 years shift from where 100% of our titles had a physical book to maybe a handful. I don't know if we have 5 titles now that are just physical books. And it started with 3 projects that we had inherited, and then we've been building it out since then. Mm-hmm. And so now I believe we're over 3,000.
Easily.
Mm-hmm.
Easily. And so it's been interesting to look back and think on how far we've come.
So we started out as Great River Technologies, and we're now Great River Learning. What was the segue from one to the other?
In the very beginning, I think we were very intent on not being associated with publishing, with Kendall Hunt Publishing specifically, because we were trying to be different. And so, well, if we're not going to do publishing, what are we going to be? Well, we're technology. How about Great River Technologies? Okay. So we started off with that. And it was 10 years, I think, right? When we were still
I don't know.
to GRL. And what I found was it was a great intent with unforeseen, consequences. And so we'd go on campus and talk to people, and they'd say, Great River Technologies, you probably should be talking to our IT department. And no, let's talk about you and your class. And it was just constantly, you're talking to the wrong people. Go talk to our CIO. And so over the course of whatever, 5-10 years, I remember we were in a meeting and Chad came and made a comment on how, well, maybe it's a good time to rebrand what we're about and get much more specific and clear with our intent. And so instead of Great River Publishing, well, we're focusing on higher ed learning. And so we landed on Great River Learning. And I remember we had some sort of a company dinner, a social event where we shared the new name. And I think there was a sigh of relief because it just seemed to make more sense. And so since 2014,
I feel like it was 2014. Maybe it was officially 2015.
Yeah, so ever since then, we've been Great River Learning.
Cool. And so that goes into a little bit about GRL's unique approach to publishing and to learning. Can you tell us about that approach?
Yeah, so if you think about most traditional higher ed publishing, it follows a speculative model where I think of it, if I build it, they will come. If we build it, they will use it. So the major, traditional publishers invest a lot of time and energy in building these products that have enough for every educator that would be teaching the class to have enough material that they would need to want to adopt it, which means that there's usually going to be additional content that they don't need because they're trying to accommodate, within reason, everybody. And so people have to go with what they have. And what I would say is we're the opposite side of that for most of what we do. The base of our business is focused on working with individual educators to help them create or curate from existing material and then add in more of the let's say, interactive, application-based material that they're not getting from the traditional titles that are out there. And so we're very focused on a hands-on approach where we really are sitting down with them, understanding what their wants and needs are, and taking advantage of our resources. And that includes instructional designers that can really help them brainstorm and conceptualize what the possibilities are and build off of their great ideas, and also add some insights and suggestions for them to consider. If the traditional material that's available is really getting the job done at a level that educator's happy with, and for me that means the students are reading it on a regular basis, the students are finding it engaging, the educator would say that my students are coming to class prepared, they've read, they're interested in the material, they're making the connections between the concepts that they're covering in class that they're reading and the kind of important takeaways, and in many cases understanding why they should care, how this is useful to them. If the book that they're using or the material that they're using is doing all that, then I would say stick with what you have unless you have aspirations of creating your own. But what we find is that most educators most of the time would not agree that their students read on a regular basis, that they're highly engaged with the book, that they are making the connections between the concepts and the why should I care and the application. And the more that that's their reality, the more then a company like GRL can come in and really help them provide their students with material that will help them achieve their goals. So I'd say that's one of the main differences. It's bespoke, it's developed by them for their students with a lot of resources and ongoing support, from the conceptualization to helping them build it, helping provide resources for material and other support that they would want or need to kind of create all the elements that go into the interactive material. And I think that's a chunk of where I think we shine. And then the other is just the ongoing relationship that we have with the people we work with. Most people are not coming to work with us because they're looking for a relationship. But it's absolutely true that being attentive, being responsive, making sure that we are really supporting them from conceptualization through development and then ongoing support for their students, for other instructors, for themselves. This is something that is very important to us. We have to be good at this. And this is something we've been focusing our attention on since day one. And while we're not perfect, we're never going to be perfect at it. We're always looking to grow. We're always looking to learn from mistakes. We're always looking to make sure that we're, really fostering a solid relationship with the people that we work with. And I keep coming back to, as I hear about people that we've worked with and why they stuck with us for so long, it seems to be the reoccurring theme of it's the relationship that they have with us and then the value that they get, that their students get of the material that we've helped them develop.
I remember you saying often that it's not a one-shot deal. It's an evolution, and it's just going to keep going and going and going.
Yeah,
so
it's true. I mean, and the original target, the original vision is the first step. And then as it's getting used, we talk to them about, okay, to what degree is this achieving all the things that you originally wanted? Are there changes that we could make, that we should make? Each of the project has a goal, and we want to make sure that we're doing our part to make sure that the material is getting the job done. And the target changes over time too. So as the target changes, and we can work with them to evolve with it.
So you shared some wonderful news with us recently where GRL was named let me get this right, Top Education Technology Solutions Provider for 2025 by Technology Magazine CIO Review.
That's right.
So what does that mean to you for this award?
Yeah, I mean, I was really excited when we got the award because it shows that we're not just keeping up with higher education technology, that we're actually helping to shape it. And so that's a really good feeling after all the time and all the years that we've been putting in and evolving as a company. What it means to me is it's showing us that we're on the right track. It shows us that, we're focusing on the right things, which is making sure that students have access to engaging, high-quality content, that we're supporting the educators we work with at a high enough level that people want to stay with us for a long time, and that we're, making a positive impact on our society by helping students care about the course material that they're investing, their time and money to go to school for, and that the educators we work with have been dedicating their lives to. So it shows us that we're doing something really important.
So we talked about the first 20 years, looking ahead to the next 20 years. How do you see GRL evolving as a whole?
The core of what we do, I don't think is going to change a lot. The technology, sure. A new additional functionalities, absolutely. I think the big question mark is how much of an impact is artificial intelligence going to make? We're already starting to see some of the capabilities on the horizon. How can we leverage it in a way that complements, that doesn't replace them or us? And so that's the big question mark for me. But it's so new. So I know one of the things that we have coming up and launching shortly will be the first use of AI to be infused within our material. So if students are having issues, they're getting stuck, they can use AI to help them understand kind of what's going on. And whether we want to, open up the the results for everything that's on the web, or keep them really focused just on the material that they're studying. That's, I think, one of the controls that we have in AI with our AI solution, to make sure that the students are staying focused and not getting led astray by having AI report back to them a solution or an idea that falls outside of the material that we're publishing.
Good. Yeah, I think that will be really helpful for students to be able to interact with the author's material in a new and interesting way, to really tie different concepts together from chapter to chapter.
Yes.
So I've been looking forward to that update for quite some time.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for instructors who are listening or watching that are considering maybe becoming authors but feel like they don't have the bandwidth or the time to do so?
Yeah. I get it. And I've been watching this happen, for the past almost 27 years, and I would feel the same way. Mm-hmm. And the good news is we can really help map out, scope out, and make sure that we have a process set up to really work around their life, work around teaching and research and family and, and other things that they have going on in a way that can work for them. So we're not imposing a schedule. We take all of their life into consideration and come up with a scope of work and a schedule to work around them. Sometimes we're starting from zero, and sometimes we're building off of existing material and then adding in, a few other pieces. So there's certainly an investment of time, but it does not have to be a mountain of work to do. And I think if people trust the fact that we do this all the time and we're very good at it, and they take a few baby steps with us to get a better understanding of what the project is intended to be, look at what resources we have in terms of content. There are times when we can make sure that they have somebody locally, like a good grad student or a great undergrad, to help them. And then there are the resources that we have in this building to really help them through the process. And I would bet that almost everybody that we've worked with, 3,000-4,000 people that we've worked with, would all agree that there's a piece of them that was wondering, oh my gosh, can I do this? Is this going to be too much work? And they would all say, yeah, it's an investment of time, but GRL helped me do this in a way that really worked with me and around my life in a way that got the job done. And I don't think that is ever going to change. So what I would say is take a few baby steps with us. We will want to make sure that it's really the right solution before we officially, move forward. And if through the conceptualization of what the project should be, we all realize that it doesn't make sense, then that's a bridge that we'll cross. But way more times than not, there is a way to do this that works on top and around everything else you have going that doesn't get in your way. And so I would say try.
It's all about the partnership. Yes. When you're with us, you're joining a team of experts. We have web designers who care about accessibility. We do copywriting, proofreading, IT. I mean, there's so much that one person can't do alone. And we build everything together.
So I guess to wrap it all up, we've really been here since the very beginning. After almost 2 decades being with GRL, what excites you about the company's future and just get you fired up coming to work every day?
I get asked that question a lot. Being here this long, why? And I give a similar response, which is my truth, which is I rarely know what day of the week it is because I'm not living for the weekend and dreading Mondays. I really come here to play as much as I do to, do something meaningful. And we all have the same, 24 hours a day for as many years as we have. And I just really appreciate that I'm part of something that is doing, good work and helping our community, helping different educators and colleges, and ultimately helping our society. And that means something to me. So It's not always easy. Nothing is, but it is very satisfying knowing that when I get feedback from people that we've worked with, when I see feedback from surveys that we do from students on how much good the material that we help develop does for them, I'm just really grateful to be here. So
That's great. Well, thank you for spending some time with us today. And again, congratulations to, I guess, us all on the award, and looking forward to see what else is going to come now in the next 20 years.
absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
That was Keith Kropp, our Assistant Vice President of Great River Learning. The end.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in to Can I Get a Retake, a podcast by Great River Learning. If you liked the episode, show your support by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. For detailed show notes and transcripts, visit greatriverlearning.com. Can I Get a Retake is brought to you by hosts Michelle Manaman and Deanna Plussel. Our show is produced and edited by Michaela Albee and Maggie Christensen. Artwork for the podcast is crafted by Michelle Manaman. Our intro music is courtesy of Comma Media. We'll be back soon with another captivating chat with a top GRL educator.